Hi, I'm Helen, a 35-year-old stay-at-home wife who deeply cherishes the tranquility of our home, a cherished legacy from my late parents. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe for more stories like mine. Now, let me share the turbulence hidden beneath the calm of my once peaceful life. The crisp autumn air did little to sweeten the bitterness of that evening. As Ted and his family gathered in our living room, the contrast between the serene leaves outside and the tension inside was stark. "We think it's time Sarah, your sister-in-law, had a proper place to live," Ted's mother declared, her tone brooking no argument. "This house would be perfect for her. This is our home, and it's in my name. Why should we give it up?" I protested, a mix of disbelief and anger in my voice. "It's what's best for the family," Ted replied, his tone firm, expecting compliance. "We're thinking of Sarah's future." Their demand stunned me. It wasn't just a request. It was a directive, a clear expectation that I would simply step aside. "Helen, you need to consider what's good for everyone," Ted's father added, his words echoing the family's entitlement. Feeling cornered, I shot back, "And what about what's good for me? Doesn't that matter at all?" Their responses were a blend of condescension and feigned sympathy, as if explaining to a child why they couldn't have candy before dinner. "You'll see, this will work out better for everyone," Ted's mother insisted, as if the decision was already made. The meeting ended in heavy silence on my part, their words lingering like a bad taste. Ted appeared apologetic but resolute, a combination that only fueled my growing resentment. "Helen, please think about it for the family." Ted tried to soften the blow as his family left, leaving us alone with the remnants of a once happy evening turned sour. As the door closed behind them, the weight of the situation settled on my shoulders. This wasn't just about finding Sarah a place to live. It was a test of my limits, a clear sign that my independence was under siege. Watching the shadows dance across our living room floor, I knew this was just the beginning of a storm threatening to sweep away everything I held dear. "If you loved me, you'd see why this is so important," Ted pressed one evening as we cleared the dinner dishes. His plea cut sharply against the quiet clinks of porcelain. "Love isn't about giving up everything I am, or have just to suit your or your family's needs," I countered, feeling my patience wearing thin. "But it's just a house, Helen. We can find another place, make new memories," Ted insisted, his voice a mix of frustration and desperation. "A house you want me to give up for your sister while you offer me nothing in return but ultimatums." My voice broke, echoing louder than intended in the kitchen. The discussion went cold, the air between us thick with tension. That night, as I lay in bed, the reality of my marriage built on conditional love weighed heavily on me. The next morning, Lisa came over, finding me among the autumn blooms that seemed oblivious to the chill in my life. "They're bullying you, Helen." "It's clear as day," Lisa said, sitting beside me on the bench. Her presence was a comforting contrast to the turmoil in my home. "It feels like I'm in a trap, Lisa. If I give in now, what will they ask for next?" My question hung in the air, more for myself than for her. "Stand your ground, Helen. This is your home, your sanctuary. You don't owe it to anyone, especially not as a blackmail payment." Lisa's advice was firm, her hand squeezing mine in solidarity. I nodded, a spark of resolve igniting within me. I knew I needed to defend my boundaries, even within my own marriage. "You have rights, and don't let anyone, especially not Ted, make you doubt that," Lisa had said, her gaze stern yet kind. Her words echoed through my mind as the days passed. Each attempt by Ted to sway me seemed to clash against the shield of determination I was building. "I need you to understand this isn't just about what I want. It's about respect," I told Ted one evening. No longer pleading, I was now firmly asserting our roles. Ted looked at me, perhaps for the first time truly seeing the resolve in my eyes. "I didn't realize it was this serious to you," he admitted, his voice softer, but it was too late for softness. "It is serious, Ted. It's not just about a house. It's about whether I'm a partner in this marriage or just a pawn in your family's games," I declared, the clarity of my stance crystallizing with each word. As the confrontation drew to a close, the air felt different, charged with the potential for change, whether together or apart. Whatever the outcome, I knew Lisa was right. This was about control, and I was no longer willing to be controlled. "If you don't agree, Helen, I don't see how our marriage can continue," Ted said coldly one afternoon, his ultimatum hanging heavily between us. "Family unity? Or is it just about what your mother and you want, regardless of my feelings? I asked sharply, not only seeking his response, but also highlighting the unilateral decisions being forced upon me. This isn't just my decision. It's what's logical for everyone involved, Ted replied, trying to frame his assertiveness as rationality. Logical for whom, Ted? Because it certainly doesn't feel logical to me. The person whose name is on the deed. The person who inherited this house from her parents, I countered. The intensity of my own voice surprised me, a stark reminder of everything at stake. As the days passed, every conversation with Ted seemed to drive us further apart. His family's demands echoed in his words, overshadowing our shared history. Desperate for clarity and support, I reached out to Lisa again. You need to think about your future, Helen. This isn't just about a house, it's about how you're treated in this relationship, Lisa advised over coffee in her warm, inviting kitchen. Her words were sincere and forthright, a compass in the storm. I know, Lisa. I feel like I'm at a breaking point. It's not just about the house anymore. It's about respect and my autonomy. I confided, the weight of my reality sinking in. Then maybe it's time to consider what your life would look like without Ted. If he can't respect your autonomy, is that really the partnership you want to continue? Lisa's question wasn't just hypothetical. It was a call to action. Her question lingered in my mind, growing louder with each passing day. The thought of taking such a definitive step was daunting, yet increasingly necessary. One evening, as Ted brought up the topic again, I found the courage to confront the future. I felt a mixture of fear and resolve as I spoke. If this marriage can only continue on your terms and your family's terms, then maybe it's not a marriage I can stay in. My voice carried the strength of my inner determination. Are you saying you want a divorce? Ted's reaction was a blend of disbelief and anger, his facade of control slipping. I'm saying I want a marriage based on mutual respect and love, not ultimatums and control. If that's not possible, then yes, maybe a divorce is the only answer, I replied, each word measured to reflect the pain and empowerment of my decision. Ted was silent, his usual rebuttal absent as the weight of our conversation settled around us. The next days blurred with tension, each of us contemplating the potential end of our marriage. I took steps to protect my interests, meeting with a lawyer to discuss my options and prepare for possible legal battles. You have strong grounds to keep your property, and if it comes to divorce, to defend your rights, the lawyer assured me, her professionalism a stark contrast to the emotional chaos at home. Armed with legal advice and newfound determination, I readied myself for whatever lay ahead, whether reconciliation or separation. I was prepared to face it on my terms, no longer a bystander but the author of my own story. You've gone too far, Helen. How could you do this to us, to me? Ted's voice thundered through our soon-to-be former home as I folded my last set of linens, methodically smoothing the creases to calm my rattled nerves. It was never about us, Ted. It was always about what you and your family wanted. I'm reclaiming my life, I replied, my voice calm and steady in contrast to his escalating anger. This is betrayal, Helen. You've betrayed my trust and my family's, he accused, his face flushed with fury. Betrayal? I think not. Protecting myself from manipulation isn't betrayal, I countered, standing firm in my decision. I countered, my resolve hardening with each word as I continued packing. Ted's mother, Martha, entered the room like a chilling gust of wind. You're destroying this family, selling this house out from under us. You selfish girl, she hissed, her words laced with venom. I am not responsible for holding together a family that doesn't respect me, I said, facing her with a defiance that had been building over years of suppressed grievances. This was my home, my sanctuary, and I will not be bullied into submission. Ted stood between us, torn between allegiances. Is there no way we can resolve this? Think about what you're doing, Helen. I've thought about it more than you know. It's decided, Ted. I am moving on. I said, my decision clear and final. The moving truck arrived the next morning. As I oversaw the loading of my life into boxes, Ted tried one last time. You don't have to do this, Helen. We can work it out. I needed a partner who stood by me, not one caught between me and his family's demands, I replied, not pausing in my tasks. With each box that left the house, I felt a weight lifting. I wasn't just moving my belongings. I was shifting the boundaries of my life, setting new, healthier limits. As the final items were loaded, I took one last look at the house. It had been a place of love and conflict, of growth and retreat. Now it was just a building in my rearview mirror. Goodbye, Ted. I wish things could have been different, I said, more to close the chapter than out of hope for reconciliation. Helen, Ted began, but I didn't stay to hear the end. As I drove away, I felt the strings of manipulation and control cut cleanly for the first time in years. My phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. You're free now. Coffee's on me when you're ready. I smiled, driving toward my new beginning. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but it was mine to travel, free from the shadows of others' desires. My heart was heavy yet hopeful, ready for whatever lay ahead, armed with the lessons of the past and the promise of a future built on my own terms. Sitting across from Ted in the stark, neutral-colored room where our divorce mediation took place, I felt an unusual sense of detachment. His attempts to sway the mediator with emotional appeals only highlighted why this path was necessary. Helen, can't we just discuss this? There must be another way, Ted implored, his voice strained as he leaned across the table, searching for a glimpse of the connection we once shared. No, Ted. Discussions were for when I was being manipulated and threatened. This is the result of that, I replied firmly, my voice clear and resolute, no longer swayed by his pleas. As Ted realized his usual tactics were futile, his demeanor shifted to one of frustration and resignation. Helen, you're making a huge mistake, he muttered under his breath. Actually, Ted, I'm correcting one, I countered without hesitation, surprising even myself with the calm assertiveness that had grown within me. The mediator intervened, steering the conversation back to logistics. Let's focus on the division of assets. Helen, you've mentioned there are some personal items you wish to retain. Yes, items from my parents, things that hold sentimental value and have no relevance to Ted. I explained, listing the items that connected me to a past before my marriage began to suffocate me. Throughout the meeting, Lisa sat beside me, a silent pillar of support. Her presence was a constant reminder that I wasn't alone, that I had people in my corner who valued me for who I am, not for what I could give. After the meeting, as we walked to her car, Lisa squeezed my hand. How are you holding up? Better than I thought, I replied. It's like I'm finally breathing fresh air after being underwater for too long. I admitted, breathing in the crisp, invigorating autumn air around us. You're right, Lisa. I'm not just surviving, I'm reclaiming my life. Lisa's smile was both proud and encouraging, and I felt a wave of relief mixed with the adjustment to my new reality. Moving into a small apartment felt like stepping into a new world, one where every choice was mine alone. The space was minimal, the decor simple, reflecting the fresh start I was embracing. One evening, as I unpacked the last of my boxes, I came across an old photo album that my mother had compiled over the years. Flipping through its pages, I was flooded with memories of happier times, which brought both smiles and tears. It was then that I truly realized how far I had come, how much I had endured, and how much I had overcome. The phone rang, jolting me from my reverie. It was Ted, his voice softer and almost hesitant. I just wanted to say I hope you find what you're looking for. Thank you, Ted. I already have, I responded, the finality of my words closing the chapter on the past and opening the door to the future. With the divorce finalized and my past officially behind me, I looked forward to the days ahead with a renewed sense of hope and excitement. I had plans and dreams that had been shelved, now ready to be pursued. Life awaited, not as a continuation of what was, but as a celebration of what could be. As I closed the photo album and placed it on a shelf, it wasn't just a book being set down. It was the foundation of a new narrative, one where I was the author of my own story, finally pouring a perfect latte, the steam swirling up like the new hopes and possibilities before me. I glanced across the counter at Lisa, who was chatting with one of our regulars. The cafe buzzed with the lively energy of a community coming together, a stark contrast to the isolation of my past life. It's incredible, isn't it? Lisa said, joining me behind the counter. Her eyes sparkled with the pride and joy we both felt. It really is, I agreed, handing a freshly brewed coffee to a waiting customer who greeted me with a warm smile. Every cup we serve is a reminder of what we've overcome. Just think, 6 months ago this was all just an idea, Lisa remarked as she wiped down the counter. And now it's a place that brings people together. It feels like we're not just serving coffee but building a community. My heart swelled with every satisfied customer's nod and smile. The bell above the door jingled as a new customer walked in. It was Mia, a young woman who had recently moved into the neighborhood. She approached the counter with a shy smile. "Good morning. Could I get the usual, please?" Maya asked, her tone friendly and familiar. "Of course, coming right up," I replied, starting on her drink. "How's the new job going?" "It's going well, thanks for asking. This place has become a part of my morning ritual. It's so comforting," Mia shared, her gratitude evident. Hearing this, I felt an immense satisfaction that went beyond just business success. Our cafe was touching lives, offering comfort and a sense of belonging. As the morning rush waned, Lisa and I took a moment to enjoy a coffee together. "We should think about hosting some events here, maybe live music nights or art shows," Lisa suggested, always thinking of ways to deepen our cafe's connection with the community. "I love that idea. Let's turn this place into a hub for creativity, where artists can showcase their work," I said, thrilled by the prospect of expanding our impact. Just then, my phone chimed softly with a message from Ted, the first in weeks. "I heard about the cafe. Congratulations. It seems like you're really making a new start." Reading the message, I felt a swirl of emotions. I typed back, "Thank you, Ted. It's a new chapter." The finality of our past relationship cast a bittersweet shadow over my new life. Putting my phone away, I turned back to Lisa. "So about the live music night, let's set a date. It's time to celebrate growth, creativity, and community." As the day went on, the cafe buzzed with the afternoon crowd, each person adding to the story of our place. Behind the counter, I found a comforting rhythm in the routine, each swirl of cream a symbol of my newfound peace. Closing the cafe that evening, I locked the door and stood outside, gazing through the large windows at the cozy space we had created. The journey from a life controlled by others to one where I was the master of my own destiny had been long and challenging. But as I turned the key and stepped into the cool evening air, I knew every difficult step was worth it. This wasn't just a new beginning, it was my reclamation of life, joy, and autonomy. In this little cafe, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you think Helen was right to sell the house without discussing it with Ted, given the circumstances? This situation raises important questions about personal freedom versus family obligations. What's your take on balancing these aspects in a relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel for more engaging content like this. Your support helps